All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Daily December 2021. This is day 2. And today, I'd like to talk about the worst MMO ever. And for those of you wondering, oh my god, which one is he going to talk about? Is he going to talk about RuneScape because it's so old and it's so blah, blah, blah. Maybe he's going to talk about World of Warcraft because, I mean, look at all the bad stuff happening. Or maybe he's going to talk about insert actually bad MMO here. I'm not going to talk about any of those. What I am going to talk about is there is a YouTube series that I watch every so often. I don't watch it religiously or anything like that, but I enjoy it because it lets me get an opinion, get someone else's opinion on just random MMOs that exist. It's made by a YouTuber named John Strife Hayes, who's significantly better, bigger. I think I'm very good. He's significantly bigger than I am. And there are obvious reasons as to why. If you watch any of his stuff, it's really well. It's really well edited, really well recorded. It is a high quality product. He deserves absolutely everything he gets. But the worst MMO ever series is just an interesting series where he finds a bunch of like free to play MMOs or just MMOs that are just not popular, and he basically does reviews on them, going into them with the idea of they are the quote unquote worst MMO ever. It's a clickbait title. It's meant to be a clickbait title, and it does exactly what it's meant to do. For those of, I actually had someone unsubscribe from this channel because a video I put out a little while ago was more D&D drama. If you guys remember that, where I talked about that whole thing about ThinkDM banning an ability that doesn't exist yet. That is what's called a clickbait title. It's meant to get people to click, and then the actual content, which the person that unsubscribed never actually watched the video. Because the specific thing, when you bring drama into D&D, I'm not for it. Unsubscribed. And I said, the whole point of the video, if you actually watch it, is the drama is a big old nothing burger. Like, it was me going, it's not that big a deal. It's not problematic. These people are making a mountain out of a molehill. That was the whole point of it. It wasn't me. And throughout the entire thing, I talk about. I don't try and like throw ThinkDM under the bus and go, well, he's stupid and he's not. I go, no, he's a really good. He's a really good content creator. He creates D&D stuff. He has quite a few published things. Nothing is a platinum bestseller like mine. And I literally went and checked his stuff just so I could say that. Because ego is a thing. But I mentioned I have the utmost respect for the guy. So, again, the entire purpose of a clickbait title is to get people to come in. Because, again, getting people to see your content is remarkably hard on YouTube. You have so much competition. YouTube itself actively works against small creators in general. Like, I have to fight for every single view I get, and the majority of my views do not come anywhere from YouTube. They come from me sharing, things on Reddit and connecting with other people, and a lot of it comes from things like my players in my D&D games that actually think I know what I'm talking about every so often. Every so often I do clickbait titles for two different reasons. One, they're effective. That video has gotten more views than almost any other video I've posted in months. Second, I find them really funny. Generally, if I make a clickbait title, it's a joke for me. And if nobody ever gets the joke, that's perfectly fine. It was my own joke. Anyway, the reason I am bringing up the worst MMO series and that video is that they actually both deal with a concept that I have learned, and I thought it actually had a name. I'm not sure if it does. Someone feel free to correct me in the comments below if there actually is a name for this idea. But it's something you have to learn when you start reviewing products. And this is true about anything, whether you're reviewing, as seen on TV stuff, or MMOs, or like me, I technically kind of review D&D class design and things like that. Like a D&D deep dive is part review, part how to play. And nothing has become more obvious of that than my Final Fantasy XIV series, because probably about half of the classes and subclasses I talk about, I will offer major suggestions or complete rework suggestions for the class. I effectively redesign them so that they do work. The idea you have to go into when you're reviewing products is a product is designed to work. Or in this case, a game is designed to work. And the reason I mention that, and the thing that kind of inspired this video, is I was watching Worst MMO Ever, Rift. Again, Josh Strife Hayes series, I think like 3 or 4 months ago, maybe it's closer to 8 months ago. Anyway, I can actually tell you if I look here, because I literally have his YouTube page open right now, because I wanted. He makes so many videos. It'll take way too long for me to find the video I'm looking for. Okay, anyway, I believe. Oh, there it is. 10 months ago. So yeah, it was a decent amount of time before. The video is called Worst MMO Ever, Rift. And for those of you who don't know, Rift was a WoW killer like 10 years ago. And a WoW killer, for those of you who don't know, when World of Warcraft got big, there were a lot of people that basically took the basic innards of World of Warcraft and created new games around it, generally with some sort of gimmick built around them. Rift was one of these, and to be perfectly honest, Rift was actually a really good contender to be a quote-unquote WoW killer. Nothing ever killed WoW, but by the way, again, 10 years later, and it's still one of the most popular RPGs, MMORPGs on the planet, despite the fact that people hate Blizzard Activision currently, and even hardcore World of Warcraft fans have been admitting en masse that World of Warcraft is not a well-designed game anymore. So Rift actually had a lot of potential, and probably the biggest issue that it had was it wasn't managed particularly well, and they didn't really learn anything. And they eventually went free to play, and that caused lots of issues. The game still exists now, and you can still play it. I actually just played it a little while ago for like 20 minutes and then turned it back off. But the reason his Worst MMO Ever Rift video made me think was he started a character, and if anyone is unaware how tab target WoW clones work, basically what happens is it's called tab target because if you hit tab, it will select a target, generally an enemy is what it's built on. So you hit tag and it'll select whatever enemy is closest to you in front of you. And then if you keep hitting tab, for the most part, it will go through the enemies that are in front of you. So they call it tab to target. That's why it's called tab target. And the way that these things work is if you start attacking the creature, which generally involves right-clicking on it or pushing a button to turn on your auto attack, you will do these really weak auto attacks. But that's not how the game is meant to be played. The auto attacks are meant to be done in tandem with your abilities. And so every one of these RPGs, these MMORPGs, has an ability bar at the bottom. And when you start a new character, generally you will have one or two abilities socketed into your ability bar right from the beginning. Whatever your class is designed to do, it'll have abilities that are there. In World of Warcraft, if you start a druid on your ability bar, you will have, I can't remember the name, it's a green ball energy. It is a really quick channeled spell. You hit the button, you channel, you cast, you do it again, and that's how you play the druid. You don't go up and beat people with a stick as a druid. If you are a rogue, I believe it actually starts you with two abilities. Though I'm not. Again, it's been a long time since I played WoW. One will be a resource generator, because rogues have a specific resource they use, and one will be. Oh wait, no, you actually just start with a single ability. You get your resource generator later. And that's how they all go, is you'll start with one, maybe two abilities and your auto attack. And that's how you meant to play the game. Well, in Josh Strife Hayes' worst MMO ever, Rift, he plays through the tutorial without using any of his abilities. And he gets to a point where he starts dying, or almost dying, to basically every creature he has to kill for every quest he has to kill, because his auto attack doesn't do enough damage fast enough to kill the enemy before they kill them. And then, I don't remember what part, I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes into the video, he goes, "Oh, I didn't know about abilities." And this is something I see constantly with quote-unquote reviewers. In Rift, the menu you go to get new abilities and things like that is not ever like, you're never forced to go there. So if you're not looking for it, or if you're brand spanking new to MMOs, you might not realize that it exists. Now, the first time you level up, there's a little pop-up that says spend your soul points, which is how you get new abilities, as you spend your soul points. And as soon as you click on that, it'll take you to your soul menu, which is the cool thing about Rift is you actually have 3 different classes that you play, where you have a calling, which is, warrior, mage, cleric, or thief. And then each calling has like 9 or 10 different subclass kind of things that you can mix and match however you want. There's no limitations. There's certain ones that work better with other ones, but you can literally pick any 3 ones. And then as you put soul points into each one of these things, you'll earn new abilities. And it's a really interesting thing. It's one of the things I liked about Rift is it's hyper customizable. It's a really, really cool, fun thing. So, if you click on that, it'll bring you to that, and it'll actually show you all of the abilities you currently have unlocked. Now, because each subclass is designed to be playable as if it was your only class, each one will have a kind of initial first ability thing. Like for the druid, that little green ball of energy. Well, you have 3 different versions of them. They all basically do the same thing, just with a slightly different flavor. When Josh Strife Hayes is showing his first level up, you watch him click on that button, and then the scene cuts to something else. So it actually cuts out that entire tutorial, which again isn't the worst thing in the world from a pacing standpoint, because the tutorials do, especially for a review aspect, the tutorials will cut into the review, and it just kind of slows everything down. In the game, they're essential. They teach you how to play. But he obviously had to look at that, and then he completely ignored everything about it. And then later on in the video, he goes, "Well, they never tell you about abilities. So how was I supposed to know that I was supposed to be using abilities to play the game instead of just auto attacking? Like, that doesn't make any sense." And again, for someone that has never played an MMO before, that would be an almost justifiable thing. If you've never experienced it before, you wouldn't know. Oh, every single game always does this. This is how the games are played. WoW clones all do this. You tab target, then you use your abilities. That's how literally every single MMO ever has worked. Even if you go all the way back to EverQuest, you have abilities in EverQuest. And EverQuest actually was a game where for your first few levels, depending on your class, you would auto-attack things to death. In the early versions of it. I think now, because EverQuest still exists, and I have played it in the last year or so. Now you actually have abilities like every other MMO. So the idea that, well, how was I supposed to know that I was supposed to push a button? That doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't fly with me. And the reason why is worst MMO ever, Rift, is like his 70 or 80th. I'm actually going to see if I can find if he has a worst MMO ever. Yeah. He's 51 videos in worst MMOs ever. And those aren't the only MMOs he has ever played. He actually has been playing MMOs for a while. So the idea that, and this would have been, I think, like his 45th or something like that. I don't know. It was in the 40s-ish. It was relatively recent. Being his 40th MMO, not being able to understand that you're supposed to use abilities in this isn't just a oopsies. That is intentionally misunderstanding something to paint something in a worse light. And the worst part about this is, again, when you enter the game, you have an ability bar at the bottom of the screen, like every other MMO. In his ability bar, you can see from the beginning of the video, he has two abilities slotted there. One is a resource generator, one is a resource burner. They're actually labeled. If he had taken his mouse and just hovered over it, it would have explained it, because there's little pop-ups anytime you hover over anything in Rift. It will explain this is what you do. And if he hadn't, if he just pushed the button, it would have worked. And that brings me back to the idea of games are designed to work. If you're going into something to review it, you have to work on the assumption that it is designed to work. No one builds a product intentionally for it to not work. So if you go into a review process with the idea of this is designed to not work, you're doing a disservice to the product. Now, does that mean that every single product and every single game is built well and that they will work? No. And I've talked about that in D&D Did a Deep Dive, where I talk about things like, well, hey, this doesn't work. It doesn't mean it wasn't designed to work. It means it didn't succeed in that. But I always go into it with the idea of, okay, I get where you are trying to go. This is what you are attempting to do and you failed. But this is the attempt. And most of my suggestions are going to be based off the idea of, okay, if this was your intent, this is what you needed to do in order to do that. A good example is in my most recent D&D Deep Dive. They had a thing where the Grenadier could throw a bomb that was a 5-foot sphere. Okay, well, a 5-foot sphere in D&D means it only affects a single square, so it can only affect a single enemy. And I make mention of this. I said, well, you need to put the word radius in there, because a 5-foot sphere is a sphere that measures 5 feet in diameter. That is what a 5-foot sphere is. You generally do not define a sphere by its radius. If you're just describing a size of a sphere, you'll be describing the diameter, because that is measuring the whole of something, as opposed to a radius, which is just half a diameter. So, by calling it a 5-foot sphere, it removed the ability for the bomb to actually be useful. A regular weapon attack would do more damage than the bomb would. There would be no reason to ever use the bomb until you got up to fifth level and it got a little more powerful. So if I went into that thinking, well, this was designed not to work, obviously this is a stupid thing. No, I immediately went, okay, so it's supposed to be an area attack. Just put radius in there. It's a really quick fix. And for the rest of the review, I treated it as if it said 5-foot radius because I knew that's what it was intended. It was designed to work. And that's my issue with this one episode of Worst MMOs Ever. I'm not saying the series is bad. It's actually really enjoyable. The most recent one he did was on Neverwinter, which is another game that I really, really loved, past tense. I played it. I beta tested Neverwinter, and I loved it. I played it for years, and then it went super, super bad, super fast. Basically, when they changed it from a 4th edition game to a 5th edition game, it got super, super bad because a lot of the justifications for everything didn't make sense anymore. And then they had all this free to play stuff. It was bad. Anyway, the series itself is really good, but this idea that in front of him, all he had to do was push a button on the ability bar. And when something's not working, his instant reaction is, well, obviously, it can't be that I'm not playing the game right. It must be that there's something wrong with the game design. And he talks about that. He's like, well, maybe I'm supposed to grind. Maybe I'm not high enough level. Maybe that's what the problem is. No, why would you assume that you are supposed to grind and not do exactly what the tutorial has told you to in the initial zone when you have a thing right in front of you that you haven't tried? And this is something I see constantly when I see new people play new video games and things like that, is they will, and this tends to be something I see a lot more with experienced players. They will ignore tutorials and they will ignore very obvious aspects of the UI simply because, well, I don't want to. I want to play this the way I want to, and it tends to bite them in the ass. On the UI, one of the most prominent things is the ability bar. It's impossible to miss. It is right at the bottom of your screen. It is the physically largest thing on the UI, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a user interface. Everything else on the screen is smaller than the ability bar. And there are 2 buttons that have icons. It's not like they have a 1 and a 2. They have pictures there. Pictures of weapons. One of them has like a battle axe on it. How, when you're doing this, do you not just randomly click on one of the buttons? Again, especially if you've played MMOs before. And again, he's played over 40 of the worst and plays a ton of good MMOs. There's no possible way he would not know that this is how it's supposed to be done, other than to build the narrative that the tutorial system in the game is really bad. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest here. I stopped watching the video after he finally went, oh, it's the abilities. No one told me it's ability. So it's possible later on in the video, or literally, a minute after I stopped, he goes, this is me just being a moron. But it did kind of remind me that games are designed to work. The idea of the argument, and on Twitter, the argument continued for a while until I finally said, I'm done arguing about this. I've asked Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford for an official ruling on this just to shut you guys up. But this idea of this ability that effectively makes legendary resistance useless as a first level spell. Again, D&D is designed to work. If you look at an ability with the intention that it stops the game from working, stops an aspect of the game from working the way it's intended to work, then you are instantly doing a disservice to the game and to yourself. Again, no one is going to intentionally break their game. No one is going to intentionally create a product that doesn't work. If that does happen, then what they claim it is used for is not what it's used for. Any product, it may be that the entire purpose of the product is to generate money, not to actually do the thing that it's supposed to do, but just to generate money. And in order to facilitate that, they will intentionally design planned obsolescence or things like that so that you are forced to rebuy the product. That product is working as intended. Even though the pitch of how it's supposed to work is not working, the product is intended to make money. This particular thing, Legendary Resistance, is, and I explained in the video, the entire purpose of Legendary Resistance is to make it so you can have a single bad guy fight multiple player characters in 5th edition to D&D. Action economy is just so important that anytime you have a smaller number versus a bigger number, the bigger number is always going to be at a pretty significant advantage. And Legendary Resistance deals with one aspect of that advantage, the idea that multiple monsters have multiple chances to make saves, whereas a single monster does not. Legendary Resistance is meant to fix that. If Wizards of the Coast was to introduce an ability at first level for multiple classes that removes Legendary Resistance, legendary monsters no longer work. They have completely broken their game, which again is the reason why ThinkDM and the other person that I can't remember, I had an argument with on Twitter, were arguing, well, that's why you need to ban it. Why in the world would Wizards of the Coast break their own game? Well, it's because it's power creep and it's blah, blah, blah. No, they didn't. It's much, much easier to understand the ability if you go on the assumption that it's not intended to break the game. If you go into a review process with the idea that this product doesn't work and is designed not to work, then you're going to find ways to show it doesn't work. And you're not going to review the product. You're just going to be basically straw-manning an argument so that you can argue it. And that's not how it's supposed to work. And that's my entire point with Silvery Barbs. It's an interesting ability, might be a little bit overpowered, but not by much. But if you interpret it as it gets rid of Legendary Resistance, then yes, it is broken and shouldn't be in the game. But the idea that Wizards of the Coast would playtest an ability that breaks their game doesn't make sense. It's kind of, again, I mentioned it there, the argument they're having is basically they're arguing against an imaginary min-maxer. And min-maxers in general that try to quote-unquote break the game are, for a normal, well-designed game like the D&D 5th edition, the only way to break it is to misinterpret rules. The rules are robust enough that as long as you follow the internal logic of the rules, you're not going to break the game. There are certain combos that work really, really well. It can feel overpowered, but I haven't found too many things that are outright broken in the 5th edition. You generally don't get that until you start dealing with homebrew and things like that. So yeah, this whole thing is built around the idea that things are designed to work. If you're going into a review process, you need to approach the product as if it was designed to work. Not that it will work, because not everything works the way as it works as it was intended. But if you go into something, go into a review with the idea that this was designed to be broken, then you're going to find ways for it to be broken. And that's not going to help anyone. You're going to take things out of context. You're going to, and it's not going to make it work. It's not going to be beneficial for anyone other than you to create some outrage that you can react to. And again, that may be the entirety of the purpose of ThinkDM. And I'm going to look up their name because I feel bad not mentioning some because they put a crap ton of work into arguing Steve Fiddler of Vorpal Dice Press. Both those guys put a lot of effort into arguing something from bad faith, is my personal opinion on it. They wanted it to be broken, so they found a way to make it broken. Again, it doesn't mean they're bad people or anything like that. They just missed the entire purpose of game design, which is things are designed to work. And they somehow think that Wizards of the Coast, who not only have produced the most popular RPG ever that created the entire system, but are currently producing the most popular RPG on the market that is breaking records and is breaking business economic standards, as in they keep growing their business, despite the fact that literally every other, according to basic economics, they should be getting diminishing returns, and they're not. They somehow completely overlooked in this book that has very, very few new options in it. It is mostly a lore book. They somehow overlooked something that completely broke their game. After months and months and months of playtesting, they somehow overlooked this and intentionally put something in, or intentionally put something in that makes an entire aspect of the game completely worthless. Doesn't work that way. They have intentionally misread a rule so that they can justify their anger at the thing when it's not. Games are designed to work. Whether it's a video game, whether it's a board game, it is designed to work. And when you go in with that process, you can go, okay, I see how this was intended to work. And if it doesn't work as intended, you can make some adjustments to make it work as intended. That's the entire purpose of rules as intended versus rules as written. So yeah, like I said, it really frustrated me that Rift itself was a pretty cool game. It's not anymore. There's a reason why. I spent like 20 minutes installing the game, getting everything set up, and then I spent another like 10 minutes in game readjusting everything manually so that the UI fit on my super large TV screen that I use for a monitor, because my eyesight is really, really bad now. I did all this work to play it because at one point it was a really fun Giga game, and now I'm over that kind of game. It's not as much fun to me anymore, and for me to really get enjoyment out of Rift, I would have to put a lot more time into it than I'm willing to. But it annoyed me to watch this person that I have the utmost respect for, Josh Hayes. Again, he creates an amazing product in the videos that he creates. I actually really like the Worst MMO Ever series because it's a clickbait title. But when you actually watch it, it is not him ragging on an MMO for 30 minutes or however long they run. I think they run like 30 to 45 minutes. They're good sized videos. They're fun to watch. But it's not him just sitting there ragging on this video and taking pot shots at poorly designed Giga games. No, he actually goes in and he plays these games and he talks about some of the fun things and he talks about the bad aspects of them. Again, if you haven't watched his Neverwinter one, he played Neverwinter for years. He was a huge, huge fan of Neverwinter. And watching him cover it now and just kind of show just how bad it's gotten since its inception, and how pay to win the Giga game is now, where it wasn't when it first launched, is really interesting because you could see him kind of get a little bit crushed as he plays this game that he used to love and realizes it's not a very good Giga game anymore. But he gives it a fair shake. And that's generally what happens in these, except for Rift for some odd reason. And again, the entire reason he couldn't play the game was he didn't look at the obvious button, the largest thing on his UI. He just ignored it because he wasn't specifically told to do that. Which again, for a brand new player, I would completely understand. You may not understand that you have an ability bar for your abilities to make them easier to click on. That's the entire purpose for an ability bar. That's why ability bars existed in EverQuest. Again, EverQuest, you actually did auto attack things to death at very low levels, but even then, you still had abilities. And nowadays, if you pick up EverQuest, they've made updates and things like that so that you actually have abilities right at this as a start that you use your ability bar for. So the idea that I don't understand what this giant bar there. By the way, he doesn't speak like that. He actually has a very, very wonderful voice. He's British, so not only is it a wonderful voice, he sounds very, very smart because upper class British accents in general just sound smart. Again, anytime I do one of these voices, this is not meant to insult the person I'm talking about. It's the ideas that they have. I'm perfectly fine attacking ideas. I think attacking a person themselves is insulting and is detrimental to any conversation. So understand again, when I'm using these voices to illustrate things, I'm making fun of the idea, not the person. The person themselves I have the utmost respect for. If I didn't, I wouldn't criticize what they were doing. So again, this idea that, well, they didn't tell me I had to do this, so why would I even think to do that? Well, because that's how the game works. It was designed to work that way, and they've done everything possible to show you that designs it. Like, again, when he got his first level, when I'm watching this and he's just auto-attacking everything, I'm like, oh. Yeah, I know, because I literally had just played the game a few days before, and it took me an extra 2 minutes to figure out where the abilities were. Because I did the same thing he did. I looked at skills, and skills in Rift are things like gathering and crafting. Abilities are what you use. And so I look for skills, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. And so it took me an extra 30 seconds to find the abilities menu. So all it took was me investigating a little bit, going, okay, this isn't working, so obviously I have to be doing something wrong because the game is designed to work. And again, I was looking for the abilities menu because I wanted to min-max my character. I wanted to customize them because I've played the game many, many times before, and I know the combinations I enjoy. He simply just ignored the largest thing on his user interface. Again, it's not like he ignored a little button in the tiny upper corner of the screen. It is almost the entirety of the bottom of the screen is taken up by your ability bar. There are big, shiny buttons that have pictures on them. It is impossible not to notice it. How do you not at least go, what is this? And hover your mouse over it and click the button. Like, I don't understand how that happens. And the only way you can do that is to go into something thinking, well, this is designed to be broken. And no one makes something designed for it to be broken. If you find something where the design doesn't seem to work with the purpose, then you have the purpose wrong, not the design. Like I said, there are products that are designed to break. That's because the purpose of the product is to get you to buy more, not that they weren't able to design the product well, and it was designed intentionally to not do what it was designed to do. No, it was designed to make money. That was the point. So yes, like it annoys the hell out of me because I see this all the time, and it frustrates me. I especially see it on Twitch and things like that, where people are playing, and especially people that are like, no hints, no backseating, and then they ignore a massive part of how the game works simply because, well, I don't read tutorials. Well, then it's your own damn fault that you can't play the game. You know, it's not that it's a bad game, it's you're a bad player. Sorry. And if you're going to intentionally misrepresent things, you're not reviewing the item. Again, a thing is designed to work. A review is designed to review. If you're intentionally misunderstanding things so that you can be angry, then you're not intending to review the product. Just like a product that is designed to break to force you to buy more of it is not designed to do the task it's pitched as. It's designed to make money. A review that intentionally misinterprets aspects of the products it's attempting to review is not something that's intended to review. It's something designed to promote outrage against something. And I don't like that, and I don't support things like that, because stoking outrage and things like that never helps. Ever. I've never seen a single situation where stoking outrage has led to a positive experience. Now, bringing light to something happening that shouldn't be is not the same as stoking outrage. By my definition, stoking outrage is specifically misrepresenting things to make people upset about it. Bringing something to light that should upset you is a completely different process. Kind of the difference between rage and righteous indignation. They both can result in you getting very, very angry, but one is just anger for the sake of anger, and the other one is anger because of a perceived injustice. So yeah, that's my little thing. Again, for those of you new to Daily December, this is kind of what it's going to be. Sometimes I'm going to have very specific things that I do, like yesterday about my one-shots I'm going to be running. Sometimes, like today, I'm just going to ramble about stuff that annoys me. Feel free to watch as many or as few as you want. Every one of these the entirety of Daily December is not meant to get me more fans or to improve my channel analytics whatsoever. It is intentionally, Daily December is intentionally me doing things to fail and learn from them. Like I said before, it's a learning experience for me. So if you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Quick update on the for those of you still here, quick update on the one shot. I will have pre-made characters. If you've never played The Strange, I will have pre-built characters with backstories and everything, so you can literally just sit down and play. So don't feel like you need to go out and buy it or build your own character. I will have them. I've already built one character. I've built a Vector so far. I'm planning to have one of each of the types, which is Vector, Spinner, and I can't remember what the third one is. Mage. They have a name for it, and I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, Adept. There we go. I'll have one each of, and then I'll have one extra character, probably a Vector, just because Vectors can go kind of two different ways. You can be kind of a speed-based Vector, or you can be a more might-based Vector. So yeah, I hope you guys are still excited about that. I am. I've thus far I've had no one contact me about playing, so it's possible it will fail before it even begins, but we'll see. Anyway, that's all for me today. I'll see you guys in the next time. All right, bye bye.